you go.
Hello and welcome to Stronger Arts, Stronger Cities. I'm coming to you live from Barnes & Noble at Vanderbilt. My name is John Lassiter, I'm your host, and this episode of Stronger Arts, Stronger Cities, I will be interviewing Nashville Symphony CEO Alan Valentine. Take a look.
Thank you for coming. My name is Beth Kane. I'm the store director here. On behalf of Barnes & Noble, we want to welcome you to this new series, Stronger Arts, Stronger Cities. I'm very honored to host such an extraordinary event with such esteemed panel of visionary artists, and we're really excited about this program, so thank you for coming. And just want to remind everyone to like us on Facebook for upcoming events, so you can see the artists that we will have and other events that go on in the store, because we had a really great time in this store. It's always a party at Barnes & Noble at Vanderbilt. And don't forget, you can always park free. Don't jockey for parking spaces out front, because if you bring your ticket in from the 2525 garage, we'll validate it and you can park for free.
Thank you, Beth, for that introduction and for being such an advocate of the arts community here in Nashville. And thank you all and everyone at home for watching the first Stronger Arts, Stronger Cities. Thank you. I'd first like to welcome each and every one of you for taking the time to come down here. Stronger Arts, Stronger Cities' main goal is to be an advocate for the arts. Barnes & Noble at Vanderbilt has always been a huge advocate for the arts. In our windows, you'll see Othello from the Shakespeare Festival, as well as visual art provided by the Tennessee Art League. So our background is art from the Tennessee Art League. So, and thank you very much, Marlinda, for that. Even the flowers are from local artist Perry Crutcher from Oshie Flowers. I'm going to adjust this a little bit. There we go. Fantastic. And our very first guest for Stronger Arts, Stronger Cities is sitting to the left, Alan Valentine, CEO of the Nashville Symphony. Thank you so much, Alan, for being here.
Thanks, John. Happy to be here, and thank you all for being here.
Thank you very much. There are several questions that I know we want to ask, but first I want to have a little fun. I asked on Facebook. Again, you need to go onto Facebook and like us, because you'll be able to participate in things like this. You can ask our guest any question that you would like, most any question that you like, and we'll ask it on during the program. So I'm going to draw randomly out of the little Facebook fishbowl. All right. Renee in Nashville, are there ever any discounts for the symphony?
Well, yes, actually there are, and that's a great question to start with. You know, I sort of wondered what you might find in that fishbowl, but it is a great question. There are actually many discount programs at the Symphony. One of the things that we try to do with every concert, whether it's at the Skirmahorn or any other venue in which we have a ticketed event, we try to make sure that the concerts are always accessible. So in addition to making sure that the lowest prices, the regular lowest prices, are affordable, we periodically have various kinds of sales and discounts available for certain concerts to the general public. But then beyond that, we have a sort of progressive series, and it's actually fortuitous that we're here at Barnes & Noble at Vanderbilt, because we, you know, as most orchestras are concerned about attracting young people and holding their attention during their early years. And so we have several programs. We have one called Classroom Classics that allows high school kids and a chaperone or adult to come with them. We have a program we call Sound Check, which is designed to attract college students, and so very low price tickets.
Vanderbilt and University included, correct?
Students sign up. What happens though is they pay a flat fee for the year, and I believe Jonathan Marks is out there, can remind me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's $25. And for that $25, a college student can attend as many classical performances as they want to, provided there are tickets available for those performances.
For the entire year.
That is an incredible deal for college students.
Absolutely.
Now, a lot of times what happens is we attract Vanderbilt students to concerts, and they are active and participating while they're in school. Vanderbilt, Belmont, the other universities here in town, TSU. And very often, though, when they graduate, they get busy with their careers, with young families. They're just starting out in life. They don't have a lot of money. And so they're already interested, though, in the orchestra, but we sort of lose them for a while. And so we've created a program to kind of help us, follow on to that. And so I believe, for people in their 20s that are just starting out their careers, the ticket price is the fee jumps to $85, but it's the same principle. And I believe it's $150 for a couple. Is that right, Jonathan? Yes.
That's great. What do you think contributes to losing them? What do you think?
Well, to be frank about it, I think that when you get out of school, and you get out into the real world, you're starting a young family very often, or you're beginning a career. You don't have a lot of money, and so to think about paying full price to come to the symphony because you're no longer a student is pretty daunting.
Right.
So we've really tried to make the orchestra much more accessible to a younger audience, and it's paying off.
You've seen success.
We're seeing great success with it.
Fantastic. Another Facebook fishbowl question. That was great. Hope I didn't draw the same one. Donald in Antioch, is the symphony closing?
No, the symphony is not. To quote or paraphrase, I guess,
started right.
Mark Twain, since we're sitting in a bookstore,
right.
The reports of our demise have been greatly exaggerated. No, of course the symphony is not closing. As a matter of fact, I think you and I talked about this before tonight's event, but one of the things that arts organizations experience periodically is financial difficulty, and there are a lot of reasons for that. And the symphony, this is not the first time the symphony has experienced difficulties, and nor will it be the last, I'm sure. It's true for all arts organizations that the economy goes in cycles, and our businesses go in cycles. But the recent trouble with the symphony was, I think, largely misunderstood by a lot of people. It really, for us, was the perfect storm. Of course, when we built the Schermerhorn Symphony Center, we did a campaign to build a pool of investments to support debt on the building. We could not have built the building had we not been able to finance it. Excuse me, you can't really wait for pledges to a multi-year pledge campaign to be paid in full and construct a construction project because basically what happens is over the time the pledges are being paid, the construction escalation will kill the project. And so what happened is we financed the project. The building would not be there were it not for the banks, our very good banks here in Nashville, who took a risk with us and became our partners. And when the downturn in the economy hit, a couple of things happened. The credit markets froze right at the time we had a renewal of our letter of credit, and that caused the cost of that credit to go up. At the very same time, the market hammered our investments. And so it created a situation where the loan, barring the recovery in the market, was unsustainable. Not long after that happened, just 2 years later, really, while we were sort of adjusting and beginning to realize that we were in for a little bit longer recession than we all expected, we had the flood. And the flood made permanent the damage from the downturn. And the way that happened is that in order to repair the building, though we had insurance proceeds, which we collected very quickly, and significant help from FEMA, in fact, $25 million of help from FEMA, we had to repair the building. FEMA doesn't walk into town and write you a check and say, here, fix your building. You have to finance the reconstruction. So to do that, we used some of those assets, about $25 million of it. And while that money was deployed fixing the building, it was pulled out, by the way, at the bottom of the market, when the market was down pretty far, still down. And the market recovered while those funds were deployed, cash flowing the FEMA proceeds. And so it cost us almost the entire amount of those proceeds. So we are still, by the way, today waiting to close out our FEMA project, as are many other, the government of Nashville, Metro Nashville, many other local governments from that flood, and so we're still waiting for the last $4.5 million. But what I will tell you, to finish answering your question, that's the short version of what happened, is that we've made tremendous progress in the last few months. We have resolved our debt issues with the banks. We've, in restructuring that debt, reduced our debt, outstanding debt, by 80%. We have reduced our annual debt service by about 90%, and making significant changes to operations. We have actually improved our operating bottom line by about $6 million annually. For us now, the big challenge is annual fundraising, and it will take everyone's help in the community for us to achieve those goals. But we're on a path to a different kind of future. A lot of sacrifice, by the way, has been made on the part of many people, our staff and our musicians. And the staff and the musicians all accepted pay cuts as part of our restructuring. We outsourced our food and beverage operation. We did a number of things, large and small. But I'm very proud of the organization because everybody stepped up to the plate. It started with myself and Giancarlo Guerrero. We voluntarily took larger cuts than we asked of anybody else. And then we implemented those cuts, but we spared those at the very bottom from the biggest cuts. And so the ones that are the staff members, for example, who were the least paid, were not as badly affected. And those things were necessary to help us get through this particular period in time. But we did a number of other things to help drive new revenue streams. And I will say that very often when an organization goes through a restructuring like this, one of the things that suffers is programming and service to the community. And in our case, not only did we not drop any of our programming or make any cuts in that area, but we found ways to achieve savings in our budget and at the same time step up our commitment to the community. And one of the most significant ways is that the musicians, even while accepting a reduction in their compensation in their contract, agreed to provide us with more flexibility so that we could do even more in terms of scheduling.
I was going to say, it actually seems like your programming has doubled. It seems like there's a lot more going on in the symphony, and diversified as well. I kind of want to take a break from those questions and talk about your programming, because that's a great segue. I think on sale this Saturday is Pink Floyd in concert with the symphony with lasers. So
Well,
I'm so
no,
excited.
It's not exactly Pink Floyd. It's the orchestra
It's not actually
performing
Pink Floyd, but
the orchestra
thank you.
performing the music of Pink Floyd.
Yes.
But yes, with laser lights and with all kinds of fun things. So great light show anyway, and it's going to be a dynamite concert. We have a concert very similar to that called The Music of Led Zeppelin. It's going to be at the end of
Sold out.
January, and it's completely sold out. Those are a couple of examples on the one extreme of programming that's really focused in a rock direction. But if you look at the symphony schedule, you'll find that we have something for everyone. We've maintained our commitment, first of all, to contemporary American music in our classical programming. And we've made a few changes there to make the orchestra more accessible to more audiences, including the initiation of a coffee and classic series on Friday mornings. We canceled some Thursday night concerts so that we could create that series. We launched it. 500 people approximately showed up to the first one. We thought that was a grand slam home run for us. Bodes very well for the series. And then we have, in just the last year or two, begun doing a lot of presentation programming that involves putting things on the stage that don't involve the orchestra to make the building obviously more busy and to help it become more sustainable. In doing that, we learned some lessons that then spilled over into other areas of our programming. We, for example, took the lessons we learned about what kinds of things sell and what kinds of things are attractive to audiences in Nashville, and applied that to our pop series. And in order to increase our investment in artists, which drive revenue, we were able to then take the flat floor seating and convert it back into the concert seating. We did a survey of our audiences, found out that that wasn't a significant factor anyway, and that added 300 more seats to each concert on the pop series, enabling us to invest more heavily in the artists. And the result is that this year we're having a tremendous success with the Pop series, and in fact, our opening weekend with Chicago was our highest grossing Pops weekend ever in our history, and we've had great success since, and we expect some more of those. We are still doing, of course, our jazz series, and a number of special concerts. In addition to presentations, we book artists in with the orchestra, and sometimes just special programs, like the Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin concerts, which don't involve those groups, but they involve the orchestra and the music. So, we really have tried to diversify our programming. It is a strategy that has worked for us. We're attracting larger audiences, but throughout all of this, in terms of our core product, our core mission, we have remained true to our vision that we're really focused heavily on contemporary American music. I mean, after all, this is Music City, and it's a place where all kinds of American music is created and celebrated, performed, and exported to the world. And it makes sense to us that the Nashville Symphony is part of that fabric in a very meaningful way by committing itself to American orchestral music. So
Correct. Well, and speaking of Music City, you brought with you a list. This is a good segue. Let's do this.
Yes, in fact, we were talking earlier, and the topic of stronger arts, stronger cities, to me is really intriguing, because it is a very true statement that when a community has a strong arts community, and by that I don't just mean a symphony orchestra, I mean the entire arts community, it really strengthens the city, because the arts create community. They create engagement. By the very definition of the arts, they are engagement. I mean, you can't get involved with the arts without becoming engaged in the community. And Nashville, I don't think it's a secret to anybody in this room, has made every list of top whatever, pick a subject, that has come out in the last 2 or 3 years. And before we did this for tonight, I actually asked my friends at the Chamber if they had a comprehensive database of those lists. And the number of things, I know I saw I think it was the New York Times last weekend, a list of 52 cities or places you must visit in the world in 2014, and Nashville was number 15 on that list. And I can just give you some examples here. Most popular cities for millennials, Nashville ranked in that list. Number 6 city for green meetings. Nice. One of 14 destinations by Condé Nast that you don't want to miss out on. Nashville leads peer cities and markets to watch. Number 5 best city for young entrepreneurs in 2013. And the list just goes on and on. It's the city creating the most tech jobs in 2013 in Forbes magazine. Best performing cities in 2013 by the Milken Institute. Best U.S. cities for people 35 and under, in November of 13. Number 1 in auto manufacturing. The list goes on and on and on.
And so something that is attractive to people moving here and to attract commerce is, how does the arts community fall into that attraction?
Well, when you start reading some of these articles and these lists and what they write about Nashville, they start talking about the sort of hip music scene that's here. We all know this is Music City, and that's important, but they also talk about the art galleries. They talk about the culinary fare, that this is becoming a food city, which is really, I think sometimes surprising to us who live here, but it's true. If you get out of your, sort of your rut, I'm guilty as guilty as anybody else, but it really is true in the last, especially the last couple of years. But they talk about all of these things that are really about creativity. And the arts really help drive a creative engine. And Nashville, I think, if I remember correctly, back in the early, when the book, about the creative class came out by Richard Florida, Nashville was pretty far down the list, and that has changed radically. I mean, we've moved way up that list, and it's a city that is among the top destinations now, and I'm convinced that it has been the explosion not only of the arts community here, and by that I don't just mean the growth of the symphony or the Country Music Hall of Fame or the very visible things you see, But we have a very vibrant theater scene here. We were talking about that before tonight's event. We have a very, active ballet company and an opera company that have both grown exponentially. Shakespeare Festival, you mentioned Otello earlier, the banner that's here. They made the New York Times last weekend, Arts Beat actually last week. And 60 Minutes has filmed a piece that will be coming out about Eddie George, who's starring in Otello. And so the Shakespeare Festival is the lead in the 60 Minutes story that will be coming out. So, we have a lot of really important work happening here. And it's not just happening in the largest institutions. It's, on every level. I've been to plays in warehouse districts off of Hermitage Avenue.
Yeah.
I've been to, events in all kinds of, very innovative, people can take spaces and just turn them into really interesting places to be. And so Nashville really has, sort of the best of everything. And I would venture to guess, that this can happen in a lot of cities, but I would venture to guess in Nashville, there's a much higher degree of participation by the community in those endeavors, and a much greater percentage of people in the community who actually find a voice for those activities, find an outlet. And a lot of cities may have a theater company or two or three.
Right.
We have how many?
And is that a direct
10 or
reflection
15.
of support? I would say so.
I think
but
so.
what do you think?
I don't know that it's just support. I think it's also engagement. I think that, people, some of the best work happens in the places with the fewest resources. It's because you have to be more imaginative in those situations, in a way. And
Resourceful.
exactly, resourceful. We were talking earlier about how, I think there are sometimes perceptions people have that big arts organizations, they don't really need as much help because they're well funded, and smaller arts organizations kind of need more help because they don't have access to the bigger donors. But what's probably really true is that arts organizations across the spectrum always struggle to make what they do work. No matter how big you are, you manage to use all the resources delivering great art, and there's always a struggle there.